Hello, everyone. Um, just want to check and make sure that everyone can hear me all right. Okay, great. Thank you. So thank you everyone for joining our webinar today on ads, SEO, and CRO, digital marketing concepts that property managers and generally business owners aren't taught. There's marketing can be really technical and there's a lot to learn. And I know most of you guys are busy making sure that the essential pieces of your business are running well, and there's not a bunch of time to learn a whole new practice. But what I'd like to, make sure that everyone can understand today are just some high level concepts and fundamentals so that you can look at a campaign that either an agency is running or that you're running yourself, and be able to make sure that it's locked up and tight, and you guys aren't, spending a bunch of money on ads that aren't getting you anything, spending money on an SEO agency that isn't moving you up in the ranking, and also if you have a website, making sure that people um, that come to your site are actually converting and filling out forms. And then before I get started, we should have a Q&A section, so feel free to drop in any questions in the chat or the Q&A, and I'll be happy to answer them, while we're presenting. Or there's also a section at the end for myself to take some questions. And also, just one other point, I'll be sending out the recording to everyone. So if you did miss anything, um, you'll have the recording to look back on. Okay, so why we're here, what I want to do is just break down the different pieces of digital marketing that business owners need to understand. But like I said, you don't usually get the answers to without talking to an agency, and then also how to check them. So we'll be looking at strategy, some fixes, setup, and making sure you're getting the most bang for your buck. So some of the details of what I want to go through today are, how to build a search campaign from the ground up. Um, SEO, a lot of people can set up their website in a fundamentally sound way, but what actually gets you to move up and what actually, moves your ranking. And then once people get to your site, you've gotten the traffic, you've spent the money, you don't want to lose them. So how do you make them actually turn into a lead? So Um, getting into, this, I had mentioned before, it's really easy to spend a lot of money on ads and SEO. And if you're not doing it the right way, it's easy to burn, and it's kind of hard to figure out like what pieces, of the puzzle are really costing you. And some things that you can be seeing are, a high average cost per search lead. If you're getting over, $50 for a tenant to reach out, that's too expensive. Um, if you have Google Analytics and you can see the amount of traffic on your site and you're getting less than 1% of people to fill out a form, you're either getting the wrong people to your site, or your calls to action, your tours, whatever your goal is, probably isn't that visible. So you either have your traffic that's not aligned with what your site is offering, or it's hard for them to complete the action. And that could be from, a slow page that people get tired of, or they can't figure out where to contact you, or maybe they drop off because they want to go look for reviews and that kind of thing. But there's a lot of places in the marketing funnel that you can leak dollars. So a good place to start is looking at your funnel. So top of the funnel, it's trying to get people to figure out who you are. If they're Googling, two-bedroom apartments in Culver City, you want to make sure that you're popping up, or if you have an ad. But the top of the funnel is, getting people to find out, who you are and making them aware of who you are. The next piece is getting them to take the action to come to your site. So, clicking, then they're on your site, um, and looking around, checking out prices, reading information, seeing if amenities are there. And then if they like what they see, then they'll convert. So it's, you usually will have like Google Analytics set up, which can tell you most of this information. But, if you don't have people finding you, you don't have good SEO, they're probably not going to find your website. And especially if you don't have any ads running, it's going to be tough to find you. So you won't have any awareness. If they're, clicking onto your site and they're only staying on for a couple of seconds, and dropping off, that could just be, misalignment with who's clicking. If they are on for a while and you're just not getting forms, you might have a bit of a confusing site. Generally, you want at least 2% of people to fill out a form, book a tour, do something like that. It sounds like a really low number, but that's generally where you want to land. If you can get that up to 5%, you're doing really well. If you're under 1%, you definitely have some work to do. And it's the tough part about that is you're spending money on ads and SEO and all of that, and it's a waste if your website is, if you're losing people there. So it's very important to make sure that all of the pieces of the funnel are working, because if there's one hole, it's kind of like it just starts to, the boat will fill up with water and sink regardless of where the hole is. Okay, so let's get into let's get into ad setup. So what I see when we do ads for a lot of clients is, you'll have you'll go through the Google prompt and they'll set up one campaign. They'll add, all of the keywords that Google sets, and they'll just make one ad. But when you have that, it becomes very difficult to match a keyword with your ad, especially when there's 60 of them, because then they're going to search for something. The ad they're going to see isn't going to be aligned with what they're searching, and you've just paid for the ad and it was irrelevant. So what we really want to do, like the heart of this, is matching, our keywords with our ads. And then the other important thing is, there's keyword, match type. And so, Google will have three different ways that you can basically set up a keyword. The first is broad, and that basically gives Google the, ability to get something close. So it's, you type in, just for example, property management, Culver City. Somebody could type in property management accounting software, Culver City. Google might think that's close enough. You'll buy the ad. So I usually recommend, especially for property management, to not do broad keywords, because you end up buying so many irrelevant keywords and your conversion rates and everything are just not going to be that good. Even if you have like a low budget set, it generally doesn't work well. So, what I like to do is do two different types, and I'll set up my campaigns. I'll break them out by these types. So essentially what that looks like is you have one campaign, um, and we'll have a, let's say, exact match. So you have to, you'll type in the keyword and you'll set it up. And basically for Google to serve an ad, it has to be that exact keyword. There's no adding anything to the end of it. There's no algorithms guessing it's true. It's either that keyword or it's nothing. And so that works well when you have low budgets. So say you're only spending $300 a month, that's all you got. I would be doing mostly exact keywords. So you never spend money on an ad that doesn't, or a keyword that doesn't make sense. So, um, next spot down is I'll go to the bottom first. So you'll want your ad groups, it's campaign, then ad group, and then you'll want your ad group to basically be aligned with the intent. So what I see a lot of people do and what I think works pretty well is you'll have an ad group for, let's say, value keywords, pricing, deals, that kind of thing. You'll have an ad group for location keywords, 2-bedroom apartment, Culver City. You'll have an ad group for keywords that have your amenities, apartments with pool. Um, and you'll have a bunch of different variations like that. But what you get when you have these separate ad groups is you can make an ad that speaks to the keyword. Um, let's say apartments with pools. So you would have that, and then in your ad, your headline could say, glorious giant pool for hot summers, or that that wouldn't be a good headline, but you get what I'm saying. That headline would make sense and speak to what the person searched for. You're more likely to get a click on that. And then generally what you want for these ad groups, it can be more or less, but I'm looking around like 20 to 25 keywords. So that gives you enough space to cover the category, but it's not too many keywords to where your ads might not align with it, and then you're also, not spending as much money, because the more keywords you have, the more the more bids Google can buy. And so you just want to make sure that everything's kind of, tight and locked up. So to uh, go through that structure again, just by, let's go one campaign at a time. So you would have one campaign that's for, driving tenants to book a tour. Then under that campaign, you would have 3 ad groups with 25 keywords each, generally. And then you would have one ad per ad group that speaks to those keywords. And if you're doing that, you're going to be better than 90% of the people out there. I will make one suggestion too. Google does send, a lot of people calling and sending emails to give you recommendations, and they're always recommending things like auto optimize, like let Google just run the account for you, like through their algorithms. That's usually bad. You'll end up buying a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. They want you to add more keywords. They want you to use broad keywords, where they get to pick, and that will spend a lot of money very quickly and not get you the results. So when you speak to those reps, just be wary. Remember, they're trying to get spend. They want you to be successful, of course, but at the end of the day, that they're there to make money. So take care of your ads, make sure that they're tight, and you're only bidding and spending on what you want. So how do you pick keywords? It's tough to come up with a bunch of keywords off the top of your head. I usually, cannot do that. So, how do you go about doing that? So, you kind of come up with, those 3 categories that you want for your ad groups, and then you're going to pick your phrase type or your match type, which you can just set at the ad group. You don't have to like search separately for them or anything like that. So, what I like to use is the Google Keyword Planner. And you can basically just go into the console in the search bar and type in Keyword Planner, and a little button will pop up and it'll bring up a screen. And so what you can do is you can essentially type in a keyword. So everyone can think of 1 or 2 keywords. And then what it'll do is index its own property, and it'll just pump out a bunch of similar keywords. So it can be, let's say again, 2-bedroom apartment in Culver City. It'll pump out a bunch of stuff: 1 bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and just all of these different variations. And then it also gives you numbers of how many people are searching it and what the general like cost per click price is. So you can take the best of the best, pop those into an ad group and get that. You can also, if you have a competitor that is doing really well, Google allows you to type in any website, and that will give you a list of all the keywords that they're using, and that pop up for their site, so you can kind of take them. People can do that to you, but um, I kind of doubt agencies are doing this, but I kind of doubt the everyday property management is doing that. So another place you can look for keywords is there's tools out there. I use SEMrush, but there's a bunch of like SEO based tools that basically look at what they do is they have an algorithm that just types in queries and searches like millions of things every day, and then it just records the results. So gets an idea of like what keywords are out there, what gets traffic, and like what keywords rank for competitor sites and that kind of thing. So I check both to make sure I'm not missing anything out or missing out on anything. And usually if you're doing that, you can get some pretty high level keywords, and then you're just making sure your ads align to that, and then we want to get them, hopefully we're getting good clicks, and then it's up to our website to convert. Yeah, so just getting into tracking and attribution real quick. I just want to make sure that everybody understands, the importance of like seeing where your traffic is from start to finish. Because if you don't know where things are falling off, then you could just continue to spend. Thing with marketing is you can just continue to spend money and not really like realize there's a problem. But you generally want to have Google Analytics installed. You can, from there you can see clicks. UTM parameters are basically a way to tell you, you can add that to your landing page. And feel free to email me. I'll have my email at the end if you need help with UTM parameters. But there's a couple of sites that you can just type in the info on. You know what? I'll send some info out about that after. But that essentially helps you track your sources. So if somebody's coming to your site from a social ad, if they're coming from a Google ad, you can generally see high level, but UTM parameters allow you to see in Google Analytics, what keyword was clicked, what ad they saw, and a bunch of other helpful details. Yeah, again, if you're not tracking, you're kind of spending blind. You also want to make sure that you track calls, your forums, tours, apps. Somebody that understands websites should be able to tag all of this up for you. You can do this with Google Tag Manager as well. But you want to make sure that you're getting the full picture. At the very least, just have Google Analytics and some high level stuff there. So going into SEO, a lot of people will, there's a lot of templates out there that will generally set you up well and get you in a good place SEO wise. But what separates you from the other person that used the same template or a different one that was similar? Um, you know, Fundamentally, you want a fast load speed, and of course, a lot of people are searching. Probably more than half nowadays are coming to your site through mobile. So don't forget about mobile. Make sure that you're looking at that, and then make sure that it loads quickly. Because if your site takes like more than a couple seconds, then people are just going to click out. Google looks at your site structure. How they rank you is they basically scan your website once a quarter. And so having it organized and easy to scan does help. So that's titles. I'll go through some of that in a bit. Headers, internal linking, that kind of thing. Uh, Most important, what Google is trying to do always is make sure that when you search something that you get a good answer. So people used to be able to game the system with keywords and that kind of thing, and like just hiding, burying keywords in content just to get, pop up on that ranking. But that doesn't work as well anymore. You need quality content that answers questions. You do want to align, high traffic keywords from your research with, um, your page structure and content. But at the end of the day, if your content is junk, or it's like super easy to tell that like an AI wrote it, you'll get penalized. And then I think the big thing that uh, people miss when, especially a lot of SEO agencies that I've seen in the past, is they don't value linking. So when you have all of your, say you have good content, clear structure, and your site's pretty quick, the next separator is links from other high quality sites. Google essentially sees that as a reference point. And a lot of the times, it can come down to like who has more quality links. Google thinks they're going to be more reputable. It tries to separate by quality of content, but often it falls back on the linking. And that ends up being like, oh, how do I get these links? So there's networks out there where you can buy them, and you can buy high quality ones that actually do a good job. I would be wary of someone that reaches out to you selling backlinks. Those are usually uh, terrible ones that don't really help. um, the other option is you can reach out to sites yourself, but then you end up being a full-time salesperson trying to get people to link to your site. And that's just like, so generally what I do is, I'll use a network, and we'll buy a link that's good and get someone to write a blog, and, that's relevant on a high quality site, and then just link to ours. And so that, we do that monthly, but you don't just do that forever. You kind of build it up to a spot that you like, and you can kind of pull back on it a little bit. So once you have your SEO rank, it usually doesn't, you don't go backwards. But what can happen is, Google's algorithm will penalize you, or it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're looking for more quality answers, that kind of thing. Or competitors can do a good job on their own SEO and pass you. But generally, once you get to a good spot, it's easier to maintain. So, just a little bit about, I'll go through this pretty quick, but just on-page SEO that works. So, page title, that is what you see when you search something in Google. So if I type in, two-bedroom apartment, Los Angeles, that blue headline that pops up in the Google search ranking, that's what the page title is. Um, then under that is the meta description. So that's like, usually like a sentence or two description of the page. Um, those are actually written in the code of your website. So they don't, if you go on the site, you don't see these, but these are basically for Google rankings. Then your H1 is going to be the headline on your actual website. So when you click in, it's usually like the prominent, headline at the top. And then you want links to your different pages. Most of the time, like you'll have a menu, pardon me, that takes care of that. Um, but if you're doing blogs and that kind of thing, you'll generally want some kind of link to your to the rest of your site. So we covered a lot of this in the last couple of slides, but just again, why some sites win. You want real content that answers questions that people are searching for. Backlinks to give you those, essentially those referral sites from quality sites. A backlink from a junky site or a site with no traffic does you no good. So good sites. And you can even do that, like if you're on a bunch of ILS sites, like, apartments.com, Zillow, that kind of thing, those count as well. So that's just another place that you can drive those. So Google kind of looks at the age of your site, the structure, the freshness, the relevance, and then your basically your trust profile. So conversion rate optimization. This is basically the art of setting up your website so people that come to your site don't fall off. again, you've spent the money to get them there. You don't want to lose them because your website is confusing. So again, that can be fast page speed, above the fold CTA. So the fold is essentially when you load up a website, um, when you start to scroll, that's under the fold. And then what you see as soon as the website loads, that's called above the fold. So above the fold CTA is, your call to action, and that's what you want the person that comes to the website to do. So if you want them to book a tour or fill out an application, they should be able to see that first. That should be a big button, and there shouldn't be an opportunity to miss that. Social proofing, that's making sure that reviews are on your site, um, testimonial, that kind of thing. What you don't want is people to leave your site because they want to go check out the reviews. The reviews should be there as just another opportunity to keep them on. Of course, people still go leave the site, but when you have 1,000 people, over the course of a month on your site, the social proofing will help keep a percentage of them there and give you more opportunities to get a lead and close the deal. So, each one of these things keeps, if somebody really wants to book a tour, they're going to find it. But this is it, these kind of help shift the percentages over time and make you more money over time. And then again, making sure that your site looks really good on mobile too, because half of the people are going to be coming in there at least. So what good CRO looks like versus bad, I'll see a lot of people that will have their website and it'll be, big blocks of text. People are not spending a bunch of time reading, every word on the website. They're usually going through 5 or 6 sites looking for something, and you don't have that much time. So you want to simplify your text. Sometimes they don't have CTAs, or it'll be in the menu. There'll be like a contact us button in the menu, but then when you're on mobile, you get that little hamburger 3-line thing. And so when you're on mobile, you don't see that contact us, book a tour button. You want to make sure that that's there. So again, super visible CTA. You want a load, you want good mobile viewing, usually a cool picture, I like, and then your social proof. So making sure that your good reviews are there, um, and that kind of thing. These are just some other examples of CTAs. So, these can be things that will work depending on how your sales cycle is, and um, all of that. You might want people to book a tour. You might want people to contact you, check availability, check prices, that kind of thing. So, figure out what flow works best for your company, and then give them a form and something. The fewer fields, the easier the form is to complete, the more fills that you'll get. So, um, bringing it all together, at the end of the day, your ads and your SEO are going to be what's bringing people there. Ads get you people right now. There's no like, once you have it set up, it works immediately. Once you're paying for those ads. SEO can take a while to build, especially because Google only scans your website, maybe once per quarter. So, you could do something and you don't see any movement for a couple of months. You might think that it didn't get it. But it does. It just takes time. And then also, if you have a brand new website, age is a part of how Google ranks you as well. So it could take, if you have a brand new website, it can take a year to build up your SEO, which can be frustrating. But the positive side of SEO is once you have it, it doesn't go away. And that should be, in an ideal world, you want about 65% of your leads to be coming from traffic that was searched on Google or Bing or whatever organic, that's free. And, you put in the work up front, and then you reap the benefits of that for years. You want to make sure that you're tracking all of this. Google Analytics is great, and then you want to make sure that your website is not holding you back, and that forms are easy to fill, the buttons are easy to find, and your site content is relevant to what's being searched. So yeah, I think if you can get all of those things together, you're going to be, in a really good spot. So a couple things that you guys can do just to review, and some low-hanging fruit is just look at those ad groups. If you need to restructure them, that can be a bit of a pain, but you can get quick results from it. Negative keywords are, I won't get too much into that, but I would suggest just removing broad keywords altogether, unless you're spending $10,000 a month, which I don't assume a lot of people are. In that case, it would make sense to use broad to cover more ground, but and then you would be using negative keywords to make sure that once you see a bad keyword pop up from a broad search, that you can block it. But most of the time, we're just going to have phrase match and exact match. Update your tags, make sure that they're looking good. A lot of time that they're just templatized. So Google yourselves, try to find it, and see what that looks like. And then just load up your site on your phone, see if it works, if it's quick, and see if you can find your calls to action. And if you can't, then you probably want to talk to whoever created your website and see if they can help out with that. Google GA4 is Google Analytics. SEMrush is the SEO tool to look at competitors, and then Google Ad Planner. That's essentially like looking at your keywords and that kind of thing. Okay, we did blast through this pretty quickly, so I'll jump to questions. Fortunately, it doesn't look like I have any. I'm not sure if all you guys can see the questions here. I'm not sure if the Q&A button popped up, but if you do have questions, feel free to pop it in the chat. I'm happy to answer live. Oh, we do have Q&A. Okay, cool. Said random, but Google reviews help bump your ad. Yes, Google reviews definitely can help, and actually in local packs and CTO. So if you or SEO, if you have better reviews, you have a better chance of popping up on the map as well. They're usually that looks at location, and actual reviews, and also relevancy. Okay. Well, looks like I did a pretty good job of covering everything. I don't see any questions. My email is there, Tyler@balancedasset.solutions.com. Our website is balancedasset.solutions.com. You can fill out a form there if you want to get a hold of us or talk about marketing. But I will send out a recording of this, and yeah, feel free to reach out if there's any other questions, but I'll give you all 10 minutes back, and I hope that you all have a great week and a good 4th of July. Thanks.